Horace Mann, a pioneer of American public school in the 19th century, he famously called education the great equalizer of the condition of man. Have you heard about that? He said education makes everyone equal because this means that education could ensure that all children of any class had a shot at success. So it gives an equal opportunity to everyone. That's why education was called the Great Equalizer. But later on, there is someone else that came up with another saying, and that said that death is the Great Equalizer. No matter how good or how bad your life is, or how wealthy or poor your life is, or how young or old you are, or how accomplished or educated you are eventually going to die. So death makes us all equal. Makes sense, doesn't it? Some other people claim that time is the great equalizer. And they came up with a rule, and the rule it's called the rule of 168. Have you heard about that rule? There is 168 hours in each week. So this is what they say. There is no more or less. Everyone has equal opportunity, right? You have the same amount of time each week, 168 hours. And here's the beauty of this rule. It doesn't matter how rich or successful you are, everyone gets the same amount of hours. The successful people don't get more hours than you in a week. You get the same hours as they do. So that's why people say that time is the great equalizer. We're all equal when it comes to time. As you can see, the same principle is applied to all of these. The main idea behind this principle of great equalizer is this: everyone gets equal opportunity. Equal opportunity for everyone. No matter who you are, the great equalizer makes everyone equal because it presents the same opportunity to everyone. Now, when it comes to our spiritual lives, I would like to submit to you today that salvation is the great equalizer. Do you agree with me? Salvation is the great equalizer of life. No matter of race, color of your skin, societal status, gender, we are all equal because Jesus shed his blood for you and me, and he offers us salvation only if we will accept him. Do we all have equal opportunity to accept him? We do. It all depends how we use that opportunity, whether or not we accept him. Salvation means that someone is in trouble and needs to be saved from that trouble. And humanity was in great trouble, so God had to do something to save them. And the trouble of humanity is what? Is sin, isn't it? We having a great problem, that is sin. And sin was caused by human disobedience. And sin is not just a problem from some people. Is there anyone here today that doesn't have that problem? I don't see any hand going up, which is good because I think that you should be in heaven by now if your hand goes up. We all have that problem. Doesn't the Bible say in Romans 3:23 that we all what? Have sinned? All of us have the same problem. So in a sense, some people say sin is the great equalizer. It makes us all equal because we all have sinned. Whether we like it to admit it or not, we all sin. It is one of the things we all have in common as human beings, struggling to live a life according to God's will. So if we're all sinners, then we all need God's salvation, don't we? John 3:16 says that for whoever believes in Jesus should not perish but have what? Everlasting life. This word whoever includes everyone, doesn't it? Because if all of us are sinners, then all of us need God's salvation. So whoever believes in him or whoever accepts Jesus Christ, accepts his salvation, they will be saved. They will have everlasting life. So as we celebrate communion today, one of the services that remind us of God's salvation is the communion service, isn't it? Jesus commanded us to do this, or to celebrate communion service, in remembrance of Him. We must remember His shed blood and His broken body. When we remember what He has done for us, we humble ourselves and come to the table with the attitude of humility and service. Now, communion not only reminds us of what Jesus has done for us, but it also reminds us of how Jesus wants us to treat each other. In a way, communion is another great equalizer because we're all equal at this table when we come to partake from the communion. I read an illustration about the Duke of Wellington. Most of you know he was a great general, Duke of Wellington. And he came once to his parish church, and it was the communion time. And he went and knelt in front of the communion table, in front of the church. And because he was such an important person, no one was allowed to go to kneel with him. He was a very great person. Everybody was sitting down except the Duke. He was first to receive communion. But an older gentleman didn't realize that there was the Duke of Wellington, so he just walked down the aisle and knelt right beside the Duke. At this point, someone in the front row just jumped and touched this old man on the shoulder and asked him to stand up and move because he's not supposed to be there taking communion at the same time with such an important person as the Duke of Wellington. The Duke realized what's going on. The great commander understood what was going on. And as the old man intended to stand up and leave the place, he reached out and grabbed his hand and prevented him from rising. And the Duke said to this old man, "Do not move. We're all equal at this table." Jesus made sure that we all understand very clearly that when we come here to partake from communion, there is no one greater than the other. There is no pastor or laity. We are all equal. There is no status when it comes to communion table. Jesus used the foot washing service to practically demonstrate how everyone is equal before God's eyes. I read from John 13, verses 14 and 15. Jesus said to his disciples after he washed their feet, he says, "If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you." I want you to notice in this passage how many times Jesus makes sure that the disciples understand, if I, then he mentions his title, your what? Lord and teacher. If I have done this to you, you must do this to others as well. He wanted them to understand that because he was the teacher and Lord, it doesn't mean that he can't wash somebody else's feet. He wanted them to understand that when they come to the communion table, they're all equal. There is no one greater than the other. There is no Lord or teacher. They're all equal at the communion table. So today, we have this opportunity to imitate Jesus Christ in this practical demonstration of humble service by washing each other's feet. In the Adventist church, if you're visiting today with us, in the Adventist church, we practice the foot washing, and we do this just simply because Jesus has asked us to do that. He said, "Just follow my example." And it's a very practical way of humbling ourselves. It's not easy to get on your knees and wash another person's feet, but Jesus wants us to do that to practically demonstrate our humble service to others. So we will be following the example of Jesus this morning. So we will be separating into different groups today. If you want to do foot washing with your spouse or in your family, we have that in the gym available for you in auditorium. If you want to do just men or women separately, and downstairs is East 1, 2, and 3. You'll find there the groups. So please remember, we're still in the sanctuary, and it's still during the communion service. This is the part of the service, so reverently and quietly we will leave this place, and then we'll come back as soon as it's done so we continue with serving the bread and the wine. May God bless you.